Ryan Carter had always been the type to trust logic. A software engineer, the numbers were his world, not the mysteries of the universe. That's why his arrival at the remote space station Lyra 9 felt like just another ordinary assignment. The station, nestled in the orbit of a gas giant light years away from Earth, was a hub for intergalactic research, and he had been sent to troubleshoot some advanced systems for the research team. Everything seemed perfectly mundane until he met her. He first saw Aria in the station's dimly lit lounge. She was sitting alone at a corner table, her eyes glowing with an ethereal blue light that seemed almost unnatural. Ryan couldn't help but stare. She looked human, but something was off. Her skin was a pale shade of violet, her hair like strands of silver moonlight cascading down her back. The more he looked, the more his mind refused to categorize her as anything he had ever seen before. Aria's gaze met his, and he froze. It wasn't just her unusual appearance. It was the way she looked at him, like she knew him, like she had been waiting for him. A shiver crawled down his spine, and his instinct was to turn away. But he didn't. He couldn't. "Ryan Carter," she said softly, as if speaking his name was the most natural thing in the world. Ryan blinked, confused. He hadn't said anything to her. How did she know his name? "Who are you?" he asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and wariness. Her smile was faint, almost sad. "I am Aria. And you are my husband, from another life." He chuckled nervously, assuming it was some sort of joke. "Look, I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but—" "I'm not playing any game," she interrupted, her tone firm but gentle. "You're not the man you think you are, Ryan. We've met before. Many times." Ryan felt his heart race. "I think you've got the wrong guy." "No," she said with quiet certainty, her eyes narrowing as if she were seeing something beyond his present form. "I've waited for you, for so long, in every lifetime." Ryan felt his chest tighten, his skepticism warring with something else, a sense of recognition. But he pushed it away. This had to be a prank, or worse, some kind of mind trick. "I don't know you," he said firmly, standing up. "And I'm not interested in whatever this is." Aria stood as well, moving with a grace that felt otherworldly, her eyes never leaving his. "You will, eventually. Just remember me when the time comes." As Ryan turned to leave, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. Something inside him was stirring, like a memory just out of reach. But he dismissed it. There was no way, right? The days following his encounter with Aria felt like a blur. Ryan kept to his routine on the space station, focusing on the tasks at hand, trying to forget the strange woman who had claimed to be his wife in a past life. But no matter how hard he tried to ignore it, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Something was off about the whole situation. It started with the dreams. At first, they were fleeting images, shadows and flashes of a life that felt both alien and familiar. He saw Aria in them, her violet skin, the ethereal glow of her eyes. And he was with her, in a place that wasn't Earth, surrounded by architecture unlike anything he had ever seen. They were standing together on a balcony overlooking a vast city, their hands intertwined, but the scene always ended in a violent explosion, the city crumbling to dust. He would wake up in a cold sweat, his heart pounding, unable to remember more. But the dreams didn't stop. They grew more vivid, more detailed, until one night Ryan awoke, panting, a feeling of intense loss weighing on his chest. He could almost hear her voice calling out to him, faint but desperate, as if she were searching for him. Unable to ignore it any longer, Ryan decided to track Aria down. He found her in the same lounge where they had first met, her eyes gleaming with recognition as soon as she saw him. She didn't wait for him to speak. Instead, she sat down beside him, her voice low and soothing. "You've begun to remember," she said, almost as though she had expected this. "The dreams, they are our past lives, fragments of who we were." Ryan swallowed, trying to understand. "What do you mean?" Our past lives. Are you saying I've lived before? That we've been together before? Arya nodded, her gaze never leaving his. Yes, we've been married in every life. In each one, we are separated, only to find each other again, over and over. But the cycle always ends in destruction. Ryan leaned back, trying to process what she was saying. This was insane. He was a scientist, a man of reason. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized something unsettling. The dreams weren't just dreams. They were memories, memories of a life he hadn't lived, yet somehow recognized. I don't understand, he said, his voice shaky. Why can't I remember? Why? Why me? Why us? Arya's expression grew solemn. Because something is keeping us apart, a force beyond our control. It's been erasing our memories, Ryan. It's been controlling our lives, forcing us to start over, so we can never break free. Ryan's head spun. His rational mind fought against the truth she was presenting. But deep inside, a part of him already knew. This wasn't just some cosmic coincidence. This was real. And somehow, Arya was right. They were connected in ways he couldn't explain. You have to remember, she whispered, before it's too late. But Ryan didn't know if he could handle the truth, and part of him wasn't sure he wanted to. Ryan didn't want to believe it. Every logical fiber in his being screamed that this was madness, that Arya was either playing an elaborate game or that he had lost his grip on reality. But as the days passed, the feeling of familiarity grew stronger. The dreams didn't stop. They intensified. Each night, more pieces fell into place, and each morning, Ryan woke with a deep sense of unease, as if he had forgotten something important, something vital. He couldn't ignore it anymore. Reluctantly, he agreed to go with Arya. She had told him of a place that held the answers, a forgotten planet, far beyond the reach of any standard galactic map, a place that had once been home to the civilization they had both belonged to in another life. She called it Verith. Why now? Ryan asked as they boarded the shuttle that would take them to the coordinates she had shared. Why didn't you tell me this before? Why did you wait until now to bring me here? Arya's eyes were distant, her expression unreadable. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't make you remember until you were ready. But you're not the only one who has been searching for answers. There's something out there, something that doesn't want us to remember. Ryan's stomach churned. He wasn't sure what he was expecting, but it certainly wasn't this. The journey to Verith was long, the stars outside the shuttle's window blurring into streaks of light. As they traveled further into uncharted space, Ryan's doubts began to fade, replaced by a strange sense of inevitability. A part of him felt like he was falling into something deep and ancient, something that had been waiting for him all along. When they finally arrived, the planet was not what he had imagined. Verith was a barren, lifeless world, its once thriving cities now reduced to ruins. The skies were dark, clouds swirling like an ominous storm, and the air, though breathable, carried a faint metallic tang. As they descended into the planet's atmosphere, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, something ancient and powerful. Where are we going? Ryan asked, his voice thick with disbelief. Arya's face was grim, but she gave him a reassuring smile. There's a place beneath the ruins, a hidden archive. It holds the truth about who we were and what happened to us. Ryan followed her, though his steps felt hesitant. The ruins of Verith seemed to stretch for miles, broken statues and fallen columns scattered across the landscape like forgotten memories. As they approached an entrance hidden among the debris, Ryan's heart pounded in his chest. Something about this place felt both familiar and alien. Inside the archive, the walls were lined with intricate carvings, the ancient language of their civilization scrawled across every surface. As Arya led him deeper into the chamber, Ryan couldn't help but feel a strange pull, as if the walls themselves were whispering his name. This is it, Arya said, stopping before a massive stone door. This is where everything begins. With a deep breath, Ryan stepped forward, and the door slowly creaked open, revealing the truth he had been running from all along. The stone door groaned as it opened, revealing a vast chamber beyond. The air inside was thick with dust and the faint scent of decay. But there was something else, something powerful. Ryan felt a shiver run down his spine, a sense that this place held memories far older than anything he had ever known. Aria stepped inside first, her presence almost ethereal in the dim light. Her violet skin seemed to shimmer in the faint glow of the chamber's walls, which were covered in strange symbols and carvings. The floor beneath them was cracked, and ancient technology lay scattered across the room, half buried in layers of debris. Ryan took it all in, his mind racing. This place, this archive, felt like it had been forgotten by time itself. "This is where we come from," Aria said softly, her voice reverberating in the silence. The Varithians were masters of time, of memory. They could see the future, rewrite the past, and control the very flow of life and death. Ryan's breath caught in his throat as he moved further into the room, examining the intricate carvings on the walls. They weren't just pictures, they were memories, frozen in stone. He recognized symbols, shapes that felt familiar despite the fact that he had never seen them before. His heart thudded in his chest as he traced the lines with his fingers, a rush of emotions flooding his mind. This is me," he whispered, pointing to a figure carved in the stone. It was an image of a man, standing tall beside Aria, their hands clasped together in an embrace. But the man in the carving was different, older, more regal, but unmistakably Ryan. His chest tightened as he stared at the depiction of himself, wondering how it was possible. "That's us, in our last life," Aria said, her voice heavy with emotion. "The Varithians believed that souls like ours, intertwined, could never truly die. We would always be reborn, only to be separated again. It's the curse of our bond." Ryan felt his stomach churn. He couldn't deny the overwhelming sense of recognition that swept over him. This was real, far more real than any part of him wanted to admit. His hand trembled as he traced the image of Aria beside him. The woman he had just met but somehow knew better than anyone. The memories were there, buried deep within him, waiting to surface. Aria motioned to a large console at the far end of the room, its ancient surface covered in dust. "This," she said, "holds the records of our past lives, every incarnation. The nexus, the force that has been keeping us apart, erasing our memories, it's all here." Ryan's mind reeled as he approached the console, his fingers hovering over the controls. He felt a strange pull, as though the console were waiting for him to unlock its secrets. But part of him hesitated. What if knowing the truth was too much? What if it changed everything? Aria looked at him, her expression one of quiet desperation. "We have to unlock it, Ryan. If we don't, the cycle will never end. The memories, they have to be freed." With a deep breath, Ryan pressed the button. The console hummed to life, and a soft glow filled the room, illuminating the walls in eerie blue light. The records flickered to life, displaying images of their past lives, each one more fragmented and broken than the last. It was like a puzzle, pieces scattered across time, and Ryan felt himself drawn into it. And then he saw it. The Nexus, a shadow, a force that had manipulated their destinies, torn them apart in every lifetime. And now it was coming for them again. The console flickered, its ancient lights dimming before bursting to life with a violent surge of energy. Ryan staggered back, instinctively grabbing Aria's arm for support. The room seemed to shift, the walls warping and distorting as though reality itself was bending under the weight of what was being revealed. Ryan could feel the pull of the past, visions flooding his mind, memories that weren't his but felt as real as his own. On the screen before them, images began to form. Ryan saw glimpses of his past lives, each one more vivid than the last. There was a version of him in a distant city, standing beside Aria as they watched a world burn. In another, he was a soldier, fighting in a war that spanned across galaxies. And in every life, there was always the same tragic ending: a separation, a forgotten love. But then, there was something else. A dark figure, its form barely visible, yet omnipresent. The Nexus. The force that had been manipulating them, ensuring that no matter how many times they were reborn, they were always torn apart. It was more than a being. It was a system, an ancient intelligence that controlled the flow of time and memory itself. Ryan's breath caught in his throat as he saw the truth. The Nexus wasn't just a force. They were part of it. It had been using the power of the memory matrix to erase their memories, to reset their lives, over and over again. The matrix was a vast network, a web that bound them to a never-ending cycle. And now, Ryan realized, it wasn't just about their love being forgotten. It was about controlling their fates, rewriting history to fit a cruel design. "This is it," Ryan muttered, his voice hollow. "This is why we keep losing each other." Arya nodded solemnly, her gaze never leaving the screen. The Nexus feeds off the cycle. It thrives on the destruction of our memories. And as long as we remain trapped in this loop, it gains power. It's been controlling the flow of time, resetting our lives each time we come too close to breaking free. Ryan's mind raced as the enormity of what she was saying sank in. The idea that their entire existence, everything they had known and loved, had been manipulated by something beyond their control was almost too much to comprehend. The Nexus had been toying with them for eons, keeping them separated, erasing their memories before they could fully remember each other. "I can't just accept this," Ryan said, his voice trembling with anger. "We can't just let it win. We have to stop it. We have to break the cycle." Arya's eyes were filled with a quiet sadness. "I want that more than anything, Ryan. But we've tried before. We fought against it in every life. And each time, we fail. The Nexus doesn't let us break free." Ryan clenched his fists. He refused to believe that. There had to be a way. There had to be something they could do to take back control of their lives. Arya's voice broke through his thoughts. "The only way to truly escape is to destroy the Matrix. But doing so will erase everything. Every life we've ever lived. Every memory." Ryan's chest tightened. The weight of her words hung heavy in the air. Destroying the Matrix would mean no more lives. No more rebirths. No more chance to find each other again. But at what cost? What was the price of freedom if it meant losing everything they had ever been? Ryan's mind raced, struggling to come to terms with the decision before him. The Matrix had controlled their lives for as long as they could remember, or rather, for as long as the Nexus had allowed them to remember. It had erased their memories, separated them, and forced them into an endless cycle of rebirth. To destroy it would mean the end of everything they had known, but it might finally grant them the freedom they so desperately craved. But before he could speak, Arya's voice faltered, pulling him from his thoughts. "Ryan, there's something else you need to know." He turned to her, his heart pounding. Her eyes, which had always been filled with quiet determination, now held a deep sadness. It was as if she had been carrying a secret that weighed heavily on her soul, and the time had finally come to reveal it. "I've been lying to you," she whispered. "I've known more than I've let on. About the Nexus. About the Matrix." Ryan's chest tightened at her words. "What do you mean, you've been lying? You told me everything." "No, I haven't," she interrupted, her voice trembling. "I haven't told you the most important part." She took a deep breath before continuing. "I'm not just your wife from another life, Ryan. I'm your keeper. My role in every lifetime is to guide you back to me, to ensure that you remember me when the time comes." Ryan blinked, trying to process her words. "What? Your keeper?" "Yes," she said, her voice heavy with regret. "I've been bound to the Nexus. I was chosen to watch over you, to bring you back each time and ensure the cycle continues. I've been part of this, part of the system that controls our fates. And the worst part is that I'd known what was happening all along, but I couldn't stop it. I couldn't break free. Ryan stepped back, the realization hitting him like a punch to the gut. His heart sank as the pieces fell into place. Everything, every kiss, every promise, every shared memory. They were all part of a plan. He wasn't just being manipulated by the Nexus. Area, the woman he had come to trust, had been complicit in it. But I thought you were helping me," he said, his voice shaking. "I thought you wanted to be free too. I thought you were on my side." Aria's face crumpled, her eyes brimming with tears. "I do want to be free, Ryan. But I'm trapped too. I can't break the cycle. I can't escape the Matrix. I've tried, many times, but every time I get close, I lose my memories, just like you. I forget who I am, who we are." Ryan's head spun. Everything he thought he knew about their relationship was being torn apart in front of him. Aria wasn't just a victim of the Nexus. She was part of it. Her love for him, her devotion. Had it all been a lie? "I didn't choose this," Aria whispered. "None of us did. But this is our fate. And there's more, Ryan. The Nexus, it's not just controlling our lives. It's controlling me too. It's using my love for you as a tether, keeping me bound to it, making sure that I never break free." Ryan's mind reeled, unable to fully grasp the implications of her words. The woman he loved, the one who had claimed to be his wife across countless lifetimes, was not just a victim. She was a part of the very system that had destroyed their love every time they found each other. Suddenly, the gravity of their situation hit him like a wave. If they were going to have any chance of escaping the Matrix, Ryan knew there was only one option left: destroy it, even if it meant losing everything he had ever known, including Aria. But that choice, that terrible, impossible choice, had just become even more complicated. Aria wasn't just part of the problem. She was a part of the answer too. And that made her betrayal feel even deeper. Ryan's heart pounded in his chest as he stood there, grappling with the words Aria had just confessed. Betrayal and love tangled together in his mind, leaving him dizzy. She was his keeper, his guide, the one who had always brought him back to this moment. She wasn't just a victim of the Nexus. She had been a part of it, playing a role in the cycle of their doomed lives. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Ryan's voice was strained, the hurt and anger clear in his tone. "Why wait until now? Why wait until we're here, when it's too late?" Aria looked down, her fingers trembling at her sides. "I couldn't. The Nexus kept me in the dark, too. It clouded my memories, made me forget who I was, who we were, until the time came. And each time it started over, I was forced to play my role. I had no choice." Her words, though filled with regret, felt hollow to Ryan. The weight of his own memories, of their countless lifetimes together, crushed him. He wanted to scream, to rage against the cruel fate that had ripped them apart so many times. But deep inside, he knew that there was only one way to end this cycle, one way to destroy the Nexus once and for all. Ryan took a deep breath and forced the hurt to the back of his mind. The task ahead was too great. The cycle had to end. They couldn't keep going like this, forever doomed to repeat the same tragic love story. "Then how do we stop it?" Ryan asked, his voice quiet but determined. "How do we break free once and for all?" Aria's gaze locked onto his, the sadness in her eyes unmistakable. "The Matrix is bound to us both. We are its source, Ryan. The only way to destroy it is for one of us to give up everything." Ryan frowned, confused. "What do you mean, give up everything?" She stepped closer to him, her hand reaching out, trembling. "One of us has to let go of the bond we share, completely. Sever it. For good. And that will sever the Nexus' power. It's the only way. But in doing so, one of us will vanish. We'll cease to exist in the cycle. No more lifetimes. No more memories." Ryan's mind whirled as the implications of her words sank in. He knew what she was asking. The Nexus had used their love as its anchor, its power source. And if they were to free themselves, one of them would have to sacrifice their existence. It was a choice between the possibility of freedom and the painful reality of losing everything they had ever been to each other. "No," Ryan whispered, shaking his head in disbelief. I can't choose between us like that. I won't." Aria's expression was filled with sorrow. "You have to. It's the only way, and I'm the one who should do it." Ryan's breath hitched. "No, Aria, don't say that. Please." Her hand reached up to touch his cheek, her fingers cold and gentle. "I've been part of this system for too long, Ryan. I've watched you die. I've watched us lose each other over and over again. I couldn't stand it anymore. But I've also been the one holding you back from breaking free. If I let go, if I make this sacrifice, it's the only way for you to be free." Ryan's vision blurred as the weight of her words hit him. The sacrifice she was proposing wasn't just for her, it was for both of them. But could he really live in a world where Aria wasn't there? Where they weren't together, caught in an endless cycle of love and loss? "I'm not letting you do this alone," he said, his voice breaking. "We're in this together, Aria. Always." But deep down, he knew that the decision was no longer just about them. It was about the survival of their love. And for that to survive, one of them had to let go. And in that heartbreaking moment, Ryan realized that the sacrifice was inevitable. Someone had to choose to vanish. The question was, who would it be? The silence between Ryan and Aria stretched out, heavy with the gravity of the choice before them. Each moment seemed to weigh a ton, the finality of their decision hanging like a sword over them both. They stood on the precipice of an impossible decision, one that would define not only their love but the future of their very existence. Ryan's mind raced, but it wasn't the fear of losing Aria that gripped him now. It was the profound sense of love, the overwhelming bond that connected them. He couldn't imagine a life without her, without the light she brought into his soul. Their lives together, even though they had been manipulated and stolen by the Nexus, had been worth it. Every touch, every shared memory, every moment of connection. It had all been more real than the endless lies they'd been fed. "I won't let you do this," Ryan said, his voice firm despite the turmoil inside him. He took a step closer to Aria, his hands shaking as he reached for her. "You're not the one who should vanish. If anyone should disappear, it's me. I've lived through this cycle too many times. I've seen it all before. I've seen us fall apart, over and over. But this time, I want to break the cycle for you." Aria's eyes shimmered, a tear slipping down her cheek. "No, Ryan. This is the only way. I am the one who is bound to this curse. My role as your keeper, it was never just a title. The Nexus created me for this purpose. I have to be the one to let go." She stepped back, her eyes locking with his, desperate and filled with an ache that mirrored his own. "If I let go, you'll be free, Ryan. You'll be able to live, to remember, to escape this endless cycle. I've done my part, but now you have to do yours." Ryan shook his head, his heart breaking as he reached for her, his voice cracking with emotion. "I need you, Aria. This sacrifice, it's not just for the Nexus, it's for us. We've fought so hard, and I won't let us be torn apart again. There has to be another way." But Aria simply shook her head, a soft, painful smile on her lips. "There isn't. This is the truth, the one truth the Nexus has hidden from us. You Asterisk were the one who could destroy it. I knew it from the moment I found you. But to do that, one of us must choose to disappear." Ryan clenched his fists, fury and sorrow boiling together. "No, I won't choose you. I won't lose you again." With a gentle hand, Aria cupped his face, her thumb tracing the lines of his jaw, as though memorizing every part of him. "You already lost me 1,000 times, Ryan. But this time, we can end it. You'll be free. And maybe, just maybe, in another lifetime, we'll find each other again." Ryan's heart shattered as she spoke, his chest tightening in agony. But even as his mind screamed in defiance, he knew what had to be done. It was the only way to break the cycle, to end the Nexus's hold over them, once and for all. Tears burned in his eyes as he kissed her, a final kiss that carried every ounce of love, every memory, and every lost lifetime. Then, with trembling hands, he whispered, "Goodbye, Aria." In that moment, she let go of him, of the bond that had tied them together for countless lifetimes. The Nexus trembled as it lost its grip on them, and the archive around them began to collapse. Time fractured, and the Matrix unraveled. Ryan stood alone, heartbroken but free. And as the cycle ended, for the first time, he could finally remember.